Welcome to the Labatt Postgame Show. That one played out kind of how we expected. I know there was a little bit of like, if this, then that, and Ohio State gave a little bit of everything of what we talked about this week on the BWI live show and on our tailgate show. We said Ohio State likes to run the football. They want to be a balanced offense. They want to come out and do things that we've seen Penn State try to be in the past. And then they got bored with that in the second half, and we got the score we did. Penn State loses 38-14 to Ohio State. So, we're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about the first half, the second half, how everything played out, and of course, take your thoughts, your questions, your comments. And I know you don't want the X's and O's. I know that that's not necessarily what you're into, but we're going to be doing that because to me, it tells the story. It's the frustration that you're feeling, and I want to explain some of those things that happened, some of the key plays in the game, some of the turning points, and how one mistake by Ohio State is really the difference of the first half. But of course, you're my co-host here for the show. Nate Bauer will be joining us in a little bit, but he's got to do some things for the site before he gets over here. So get your thoughts, your questions here in the chat, and we'll go and we'll discuss what you want to talk about here on the Labatt Postgame Show. But of course, I want to tell you, like, you might feel a little bit better if you had a cold drink in your hand right now. This fall, nothing goes better with college football than a nice cold Labatt Blue or Labatt Blue Light, because when you bleed blue and white, you drink blue and light. Born in Canada, brewed in the USA, Labatt has been a game day tradition for fans who know how to celebrate each first down and every touchdown. Here's the best part. When you have some, you get rewarded. When you stock up on Labatt, you get points and things off the field too. Visit rewards.labattusa.com to get rewarded with the Buy Beer, Get Gear program. So whether you're tailgating with 107,000 fans or however many show up next weekend to Indiana, I was told that people want to go see the number 2 team in the country. I don't know. If the weather's nice and the tickets are cheap, that's what's going to happen. Or maybe you're tailgating at home with your friends. You're sitting on the couch with your family and your friends, and you're joining it inside on a brisk November day. Crack a Labatt Blue or Labatt Blue Light and make every Saturday a win, because that's the win you're going to get this year. Please drink responsibly. Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. Okay, so Charles wants to know, hey, T. Frank, you've said a few times that Kotelnicki is not, in fact, a poor offensive coordinator who doesn't know what he's doing. Can you expound on that position? Offense has trick plays as foundational concepts. Okay. Not a great time to talk about that, but yes, generally, there are things that, given the right circumstance of personnel, this offense can do. It cannot do them right now. The things he does well are the run game. He does that with an option quarterback. He does that with an RPO quarterback, which are two separate things, and preferably one and the same, where a quarterback that can run the ball and can create seams in the defense. Now, has that worked at the Big Ten level? It hasn't. But he has created offense previously that generated points, yards, touchdowns, and explosive plays. It didn't come out of nowhere. It has not worked with this personnel group. It has not worked for him to adapt his style to these players. That is a very clear thing this year. Also, last year, he did create some decent offense with Tyler Warren. So when I say good, I mean he can be employed in college football. I don't mean good as in, he's a guy that's on his trajectory to a head coach right now. That's obviously not true. That's obviously not a point that I'm going to be making here or defending Andy Kotelnicki. I'm very upset with the process here. I'm on your side after this game. I was on your side previously of this isn't good. And his response to these stressing stimulus of players being absent, not having the things he wants to use on offense, losing some of the tools he likes, he has not responded well to that. I have not liked the play calling. And yes, it feels like the trick plays are foundational. The quarterback option is not a trick play. Bringing a receiver into the game to fulfill that function, that's what makes it feel like a trick play. But lots of teams use the quarterback option as a part of their game. This is the problem. When you rely too heavily on that, it is because you are compensating for something in your offense you do not have. And that is the part I completely agree with you, Charles. They have been compensating for things they don't have in their offense, meaning a passing game, with these tricks, these gotcha sort of plays. And that's what I mean. I just mean that, like, everyone who thinks he's stealing money from Penn State or that it was an obviously bad decision to hire Andy Kotelnicki, there has been productive offense in the past. In no way am I trying to defend this offense this year. I just, like, there is a certain factor of we have to see the whole picture, and this has been like the next. If you're weaving a tapestry of Andy Kotelnicki's career, it has been generally an upward trajectory until this point where he has found the cliff and he is falling off of it. But in order to get to a point where you are falling off a cliff, you do have to be on an ascent. I'm basically just describing that. That is my point about Andy Kotelnicki. But I want to start here. And thank you, Charles, for giving me the opportunity to clarify that. And I know that for some of you, you don't even care about that clarification. You live in the now, you live in your feelings, you live in the present. And I don't blame you, because this is bad. This is bad football. And let me give you an example of a situation that really frustrated me. We talked about this all week long. Ohio State's defensive line, when they rush 4, they are not an overly effective unit. You saw that when they did not blitz, generally, they didn't get pressure on Grunkmeyer. So down 17 points. The game is still technically within reach. I want to bring up my play-by-play chart. It's in the fourth quarter. They go screen for -1 yards. Screen for 4 yards. Screen for a -15-yard sack. Because that nonsense, the back and forth, the double reverse, look over here, no, look over here, no, look over here. It was all to set up a screen pass to Devontae Ross in the flat, with the offensive line just kind of like jogging over to the sideline. And then, gotcha! It's actually a screen pass. It takes so long to develop, and there's so many switching of like leverage for the offensive linemen that unless you have elite players or an elite quarterback who's, Lamar Jackson back there, they're not going to evade pressure long enough to make a play. That's ridiculous. It was insulting. And then you saw what happened on the very next drive when they're like, hey, throw the ball down the field. He completes for 15 over the middle to Kyron Hudson, or on an out route to Kyron Hudson. He completes over the middle to Kobe Howard for 25 yards. He wildly overthrows Khalil Dinkins, but gets a targeting penalty, and they're able to get into the red zone. In this game, every first down was a run or a screen. When you play scared of your quarterback, and it does feel at times like Andy Kotelnicki hates quarterbacks and he hates passing, then you don't have a chance. And that's what they set themselves up with. 17 points down. It's the beginning of the fourth quarter, end of the third quarter. I apologize. I don't know exactly which drive that was. I should probably look it up over here. End of the third quarter. That ended the third quarter, and then they punted. 6 plays, 2 total yards on that play, on that drive. I don't know what to say about that. Like, you had evidence early in the game that the quarterback would stand in the pocket and deliver the ball. And the pressure that Penn State was getting and that Drew Shelton was giving up was on 3rd and long after you ran the ball on first down, threw a short screen pass on 2nd down, and now it's 3rd and 8. And here's the thing, is like, if you don't want to lose yards because you have to throw the ball away on first down, but you get 3 yards on 2 plays, you're still in 3rd and long. You haven't changed anything. If you throw on first down and then run for 2 yards and it's 3rd and 7, or you do 2 ineffective plays for 3 yards, it's the same thing. You're just inching forward instead of going forward 0 yards and then some yards. So it's very frustrating to watch some of those decisions when you're when you're in that situation and you need points, you need yards, you need to trust your quarterback. I understand where you are and who you're playing, but football is football, and you're not going to outthink the Ohio State defense. You're not going to out-trick the Ohio State defense. And for the most part, they had stopped with that. But every once in a while, the whoa, gotcha came back. Steven, he just checks in, puts some money in the till, and then leaves. Steven, I deeply appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Brett wants to know, hey, T-Frank, can you tell me what Andy Kotelnicki thought that last play is supposed to look like if it's successful? It's a man coverage play where, and Joel Klatt did a good job of explaining this. They have a short route, and then they have a corner corner route. And so Katron Allen is running a route to the goal line. And then there's a route behind it. And if it's zone, you're putting a defender in conflict there. And if it's man, you're hoping that you can get the ball over top in a one-on-one jump ball situation to your 6'5" tight end. What happened was Grunk threw it too short, and then Caleb Downs came off his assignment because he just read the quarterback, read the situation, and then dropped behind and caught the ball, undercut that route. 2 was not supposed to be there based on his assignment. He just made a play because he's going to be a top 10 pick. If Grunk doesn't throw that on time, that's a timing and rhythm throw. So he decided he's going to throw that. And he was right based on when the ball was here. And by the time the ball came out of his hand, Caleb Downs had made a different decision, and he was wrong. So that is not the coordinator is stupid sort of play, other than I don't know what a better play in that situation would have been. And that's why when people are texting me oh, you could call better plays. No, I couldn't. I could not. That's absolutely not true. I don't know what I would have called at the goal line. Maybe crossing routes, maybe more rub routes, maybe a screen. Maybe we could all call a screen together there at that situation. So that's the offense, right? For the most part in this game, that held water. They were who we thought they were. They did some good things in the first half and then didn't get back to those toss plays in the second half. I don't know why. I don't know why they didn't go back to the thing that was working in the first half. All the offensive linemen played, I think, they played all of their offensive linemen in the second half. So I don't know that it was necessarily an injury situation. But, Katron Allen, 76 yards in this game. Singleton had his best game of the year, 6 carries for 18 yards and a touchdown. So Penn State almost got over 100 yards rushing in this game. I would say it's a decent day against this Ohio State team. And of course, negative 39 yards for negative 9.8 yards rushing for Ethan Grunkmeyer. That's not good. That's obviously a big problem. Oh, Teflon Don is here. He says, y'all thought you had a chance. Lol. Nobody here was saying that, man. I understand. Welcome to the chat. I'll take your hello here. But yeah, that's not what anyone was saying at any time this week. Nobody had that opinion. There was hey, this is how they could win. But I don't think Ohio State fans are just bored at this point of this particular trying to talk trash. Nobody's interested. But thanks for showing up. Appreciate the view. Let's get to our defensive player of the game. And I do think that maybe there was one in this game that we can talk about. So let's go with Amari Campbell, our defensive player of the game. Had a couple of stops in the game, played run defense fairly well, made some mistakes early, no doubt. Nobody's perfect in this game. Zakee Wheatley also had 7 tackles in the game, could be a co-defensive player of the game. He was in a largely preventative role. He wasn't really involved in any of the problems on the defensive side of the ball with some of the big plays that happened in the second half, so he was playing a lot of middle field safety, and they just threw the other way. They threw to the guy that he wasn't covering, or to the side of the field he wasn't on, and that was where they found their one-on-one matchups. And this is a great chance to transition over to talking about those big plays. But of course, the defensive player of the game is brought to you by State College criminal defense law attorney Matt McClenahan. Matt is a Penn State alum, Penn State football superfan. He predicted 31-14, I think was his, and the first time, by the way, that he's predicted Penn State loses so far this year. So having some realism, I think it's set in for everybody. And realistically, speaking of realism, you're not gonna need Matt. But if you do need Matt, you absolutely want to know somebody and you want to know a name. You don't want to be just I'll just have whatever public defense attorney you provide me. You want to have legal counsel that is capable and competent. And he's texted me about some things that he's seen in the news, I'll just say. And it's interesting to get his take on some of these things. Very professional. and you can call him day or night if you need information on him ever. MattMlaw.com. Appreciate him for being a sponsor on the show. That is going to be our defensive player of the game, which is Amari Campbell. 8 tackles in this game. Quarterback hit, which I think is the best you can say for what Penn State was able to do on the defensive side of the ball. There was a play early in the game. I'm going to start at the beginning, and then we'll work our way through the defensive side. There was a play that Jim Knowles comes out of this game looking bad, right? And there are situations that happen in this game that are not on the coordinator because he put the players in the position to make plays. The players just did not make a play. Here's a great example. 3rd and 5, Julian Sayin scrambles for a first down. That play was entirely set up to get Keon Wiley out in space against Julian Sayin. So an inside move from Denida and Sutton. And he got such a clean move that he actually got a full pressure on the quarterback. That's good. Like, shouldn't miss that tackle, but he's hitting inside hard, right? You saw the replay. Sayin steps outside. That's exactly what they wanted. They had Coleman and Denida Sutton coming up the field, and then a loop from Keon Wiley coming outside as the spy on a pass rush. They designed a play to get Keon Wiley the ball, and he got there and whiffed completely. It was a good play. It was a really well set up play. And they keep missing tackles on the quarterback. That led to then the Carnell Tate big-time throw that was later down the field and set up the touchdown. I thought that was going to be the turning point in the game because Ohio State was going to get a chance to get the ball twice before halftime, which they did, and then they gave the ball up, and Penn State scored soon after that. So one mistake negated by another, and that was the last mistake Ohio State made because after that, it was touchdown, touchdown, punt, touchdown. 2 plays, 62 yards on that big play. Speaking of big plays, my guy Nate Bauer joining the show here on the BWI Live Postgame Show. Nate, I feel like I caught you mid-type. I know I caught you mid-type, but those are my opening thoughts. Those are my opening 17 minutes worth of thoughts. So curious. I know you're a big picture guy.
Sure.
Did this just come down to big plays?
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I think it is wrong to frame the first half as anything other than Ohio State doing 80% of what it wanted to do against Penn, right? Like there's like in progress, there was revisionist history happening. Right. By the time the Penn State got to halftime and it was 17-14, it was like, man, the offense is doing something. They've looked as good as they have all year. This is the offensive line is pushing people around. And, I'm literally just replaying a text conversation that I had with a friend who was a Penn State fan. And he was making those points. And I was like, Penn State had a good possession. They had a good touchdown drive. That was a big deal that Penn State put that together, but also, was on the precipice of going way down late in the first half, but I mean, good for the defense, right? Good play, good heads up play to get the ball back, but just, it was not, the score was not indicative of what Ohio State was doing. But what I will say, and I'm
you mean the fact that they had 12 plays and over 140 yards in the first 2 drives?
That's Yep, that's part of it. I'm curious though to your perception on this. To me, it was like Ohio State tried to play that game straight up in the first half, and then said, "Wait a second, hold on." We got these freaks.
Yeah, that's what happened in the second half.
We got these freaks. Like, why? We should do that.
So we talked about this. This is where I was going next, which I wanted to join you to join for this part of the conversation. Was we talked this week about how Ohio State had 2 games that they had played so far this year. The first one was what we saw in the first half, where they would try to run the ball. They tried to play the game straight up, as you talked about. And then against Wisconsin, they threw it all over the yard. And so in the second half, Ohio State just hit bleep it, and they went to that game plan. And they hit bombs of 57 and 56 yards to Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. And by the way, people have been saying to me or talking to me online about, like, why are they playing so much man coverage? When you run enough receivers downfield, every zone becomes man. The first one was zone coverage where they had, okay, so let's go back to the very first one. It's cover 2, and they ran a safety right at the deep, they ran a receiver right at the deep safety. In any situation, that's not open, other than when it's those receivers and it's that situation. The second one, it's cover 3 seam, which means Penn State has 4 deep defenders in cover 3. But when Zakee Wheatley goes over top of Jeremiah Smith, and they're giving like a soft double team there in this zone coverage, and then you run 2 receivers to the short side of the field vertically, you get man coverage. And then on the last one, they doubled him in what was, I think, also a zone. I had to go and double check that one. But the number ones outside were in man coverage, and then everybody else was in zone, which allowed them to bracket coverage Jeremiah Smith. You had a 4-3 athlete in King Mac over top of him, and they couldn't even keep up with him, meaning Jeremiah Smith on a deep pass. So they played zone, they played combo zone, they played man double. None of it worked. None of those. That is not scheme, other than, to say, like, did they press him at the line of scrimmage? Did they try and do some things to disrupt the timing of the routes? They didn't. But if you do that and then they beat you at the line of scrimmage, it's an even easier throw. So Penn State was trying to do literally anything to stop those guys, and they could not. To me, like, this game was playing out in Penn State's favor because Ohio State had made a mistake in the first half. They had fumbled the ball, and they were within a field goal. And then Ohio State said, nope, we're not doing this. And then they went to their cheat code, and the game was over. There was no coverage. There was no scheme. The only thing that would have happened is if Penn State had gotten any semblance of a pass rush like they've had previously to make those throws off target. Other than that, there's nothing they could have done differently, in my opinion, on the coverage side to stop what was inevitable in this game. So that'll do it for the BWI Live postgame show.
Breaking up here.
Okay. All right. You look great. Is it me? Hey, by the way, is it me here? I see you.
It could be. Okay, I got you back for a second, but
okay.
Yeah, no, if this is coming through, I've seen that player at Penn State. His name was Abdul Carter. I've seen teams try to take away a guy with 3 players, right? And they make plays anyway. Penn State just doesn't have that this year, and Ohio State does. And there's kind of this conversation that was happening online that just struck me as odd. And I don't want to go back. I do kind of want to go back. I want to go back to this past offseason when Penn State got the nod as like the post-spring number 1 team in the country over Ohio State. And all of Ohio State lost so much. They lost their defensive coordinator. They lost all these players. And I, and I'm sure other people, I think you were part of this, said, wait, Caleb Downs is still maybe the best defensive player in the country, and Jeremiah Smith is maybe the best offensive player in the country. That matters. And also, at what point is everyone just going to coalesce around the idea that Ohio State's good every single year? They are an outstanding football program. And does Penn State want that to be the aspiration for Penn State? Absolutely. Like that is a thing for Penn State to model itself after. But I do think that there's for whatever reason a collective amnesia or propensity to kind of try to deny what Ohio State has been, and that is in so many ways, whether they come home with the hardware to prove it or not, definitionally what will be successful in college football. Get to the playoff, win the playoff. Like, they might not win a national championship this year, but I can tell you right now, that team is going to the playoff, and they're going to give themselves a chance. and they've got great players, right? I mean, it's just the formula there works. It is not an accident, and it is something that Penn State will eternally have to deal with as long as Ohio State is in the Big Ten, absent the fact that they're gonna rotate off the schedule for a couple of years.
Yep. P. Chris wants to know, was AJ Harris out there? Yes, he was. They were throwing away from him. Other than the pass interference play when it was third down, he was on the tight end over the middle. They were attacking the other corners, the other two, Elliott Washington and Audavian Collins. So at least there's part of the team that I feel like has kind of lived up to to what they were earlier this year. That's the thing, is like, how do you overcome the institutional advantages that you don't have? I don't know necessarily how that works out, because you're right, Nate. There are some things about this situation that Penn State is not able to overcome, and it's largely based around money. Like, one of the issues that they have is their inability to find players. Muted the wrong person there. My bad. The Penn State's receivers, we've talked about this all year long, and Joel Klatt talked about this late in the game. The picture for the quarterback, he said, the picture for the quarterback is never clean. The receivers don't get open is another way of saying that. Penn State went out and chose these receivers in the transfer portal. This was the plan. And Devontae Ross is good. They can't seem to get him the ball consistently, which is just such a problem. And, we've been talking about Andy Kotelnicki here. And something that I've talked about, and I wrote about this, is American Ravashinism. I'm not smart enough to know exactly what your handle is here. He says Andy Kotelnicki is allergic to standard passing plays. He is absolutely allergic to standard passing plays. Even some of these, like, first down conversions to Devontae Ross, they were interference routes. So if Devontae Ross doesn't get open, you don't have other options. You're running basically a legal screen 6 yards downfield, which they used a lot last year with Tyler Warren. That's great. But, like, teams have caught up to that. And so if you're not using your receivers to threaten the defense and the traditional zones that are out there, you're not actually creating a threat for the quarterback to have an open receiver. So let me give you an example of the late in the game, the 2-yard completion to Liam Clifford. They use Liam Clifford like a tight end in this game because, yeah, why not? He blocks on a play, so he gives a chip block on a play for Anthony Donko to give him help, which, again, I find that to be less important in this game when you don't have elite speed rushers on the other side. This team has clearly shown, Ohio State has clearly shown that they want a cage rush. They're going to rush 4. Arvell Reese is a really good football player. He's a really good pass rusher, but they usually save him for third down. So they chip on a play, and they're doing a particular style of play where they're running a corner route, and then they're running a flat route. So what that does is it takes, I think it was Arvell Reese actually in that situation, it takes 8, and it puts him in a conflict where there's somebody behind him and somebody in front of him. And he has to pick which one of those two players he's going to cover. But the thing is, there is somebody behind him in coverage. So unless he's presented with that threat immediately, he doesn't have to make a choice. So you're running a route out there with Trevor Pena. He's running an out route, and he's covered up by the safety. And then 30 seconds later is how it feels like. Liam Clifford finds his way into the flat because he has to wait for the pass rush because the pass rush is not great. Like, again, it's not an elite pass rush. And then he chips the player, he gets out into the zone, and by that point, everybody's covered. Like, I've been watching these chip block releases for so long, it's very clear that you're not stressing zone coverages in any way if you're not getting players out into the pass pattern. Traditional, standard pass plays. And so, to me, the frustration is, I went into this game, and Terry Smith talked about this, Nate. I was told there's going to be more passing plays in this game. I was told there's going to be more actual passing plays in this game, and that Andy Kotelnicki's influence on the offense would not be as obvious as it was in this game. And yet. So
I think there's
so what?
There's some game flow element to that, right?
If you have the choice, and this is where I started. You weren't here for this. You have the choice of what play you call on first down. Mm-hmm. And if you call a run and a screen on 95% of your first downs, you are choosing to not throw the football. You are choosing to not put your quarterback in an advantageous situation, either on first down or third down, because more than likely after the first couple of times, the bag, like the trick is out, right? Like the cat's out of the bag. We know what you're going to do, and they adjust, and now it's third and long anyway. So it's the living in your fears, and you are creating your own nightmare because you're afraid of doing a thing. So suddenly you're forced to do that thing you're afraid of, no matter what. And it was the most frustrating thing to watch from a process standpoint as that game wore on. It was just play after play on first down. We're going to play scared of our quarterback, even though I feel like the quarterback gave you reason to trust him. I thought Ethan Grunkemeyer played fairly well in this game and gave them a reason to trust him, and they just never did. They refused to trust the quarterback. And you have to, big boy passing has to happen at some point.
Yeah, so Terry said on Thursday night, he told Steve Jones on his radio show that he hoped the game would be between 52 and 55 plays, okay? For each team, right?
Yeah.
That was the style of game that he hoped it would be. They ended up, Penn State had 60, Ohio State had 55. So and he also said, if Penn State throws the ball 45 times, they're toast, right? They had to establish the run. They had to prevent Ohio State's offense from having the ball repeatedly, right? From having repeated chances. And then defensively, he said that they couldn't get beat over their head and allow one play touchdown drives. And it turns out he was right about all of those things, right? Yeah. Offensively, their success for the most part, I would argue, did come on the ground. Like, yes, they had there were some passing yards that came late for Grunkemeyer. And yes,
on that final drive. Yeah.
Right. So that's going to skew the numbers a little bit. But for the most part, it was short passes to Singleton out of the backfield, had a little bit of success. Katron got loose a couple of times. Nick got loose a couple of times. But just generally speaking, this is to me, the reason that you're seeing the offense throw excrement at the wall is because it's not good at any of the normal stuff, right? And I understand what you're saying. I get the point. Oh, you're going to do more, and that's what Terry Smith said. He said you're going to do more vertical passing. You're going to try to explore the intermediate. I understand what you're saying about Ethan. And I think that that's fine, that there might be some reasons for that. But when it's a competitive game, which it had been until they literally defensively did the thing that they weren't allowed to do, which was get beat over their heads and allow one score touchdowns. Offensively, what they were trying to do was at least somewhat working. The offensive line was creating a couple of holes. The running backs were able to move the ball a little bit. Yeah. And then they got into a hole where they had to become the team that they didn't want to become. And they're just not very good at that. They don't have, Grunkmeyer's, that 3 and out in the third quarter, Grunkemeyer didn't have good passes, right? And he got sacked twice in the third quarter on third and longs after throwing incompletions earlier in those drives. So I'm not sure at what point, the passing game's not getting fixed. They don't have the pieces. I don't think at receiver, certainly tight end has not been part of it. I'm not sure what those answers are now, especially now that they have Gruckmeyer and
we don't. So here's the problem is the counterfact. What I'm arguing is the counterfactual. I'm just saying don't don't throw on just third down.
Yeah,
because that's what happened. But several times on third down when Ohio State did not overload blitz and Drew Shelton didn't give up an easy sack, they did have success. You know, he found Devontae Ross on a third down conversion for a good throw. He found Liam Clifford going all the way through his progressions to the backside against a drop 8 cover 2, and he found his pass for a first down. Let him do that on not third down. Let it at a certain point you do have to risk something to win. And that's what I'm talking about here. So let me go through some of the situations that I'm talking about. In that drive where they gave up the sack, you know, you're in 3rd and 7 after you had a check down and an option play. I'll give them credit on 2nd down there. They did try to throw the football, but had it come after a run, 2 screens, an option, and a short completion. And suddenly your quarterback is in a 3rd and long situation. And of course, he's not going to be successful in those situations. That's setting up to fail when you're only throwing on 3rd and long. And then the 3 and out you're talking about with the sack was 3 straight screens. Like, again, you're throwing into a thing that they're expecting instead of doing the thing they're not expecting, which is you to have some balls and throw the football. And then, by the way, that's you're down 17 points. You have an opportunity to respond in that situation. It's a 4th quarter. And it's only, we're now, Nate, I'm talking about process, not outcome. I'm not arguing that they had a chance to win this game. It was decided when Ohio State decided to throw the football. It was over. But if we're talking about the process of losing and giving yourself the biggest chance to win and dying an honorable death on the field, and I keep saying that too much, that's a little too morbid, but that's what this is. You're going down fighting, and this was meek. That was a meek call. That was a meek decision, and this was a team that was told that they're going to empty the clip against Iowa. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that process because what you're saying is I don't trust my quarterback, I don't trust my offensive line, I don't trust my receivers, and maybe that's right. But at a certain point, it doesn't matter because football forces you to throw the football down the field. Mm-hmm. This is the thing they said they weren't going to do, which is throw laterally. And then they did the exact same thing they said they weren't going to do, which was throw laterally. So that's what I got.
I hear you. I'm not sure that it would have made a difference. I'm not sure that you're arguing that it would have made a difference.
No. But we would have seen something different.
But also, I get caught in this. I get caught in the in between of, well, I understand what Terry has said publicly in the last 3 weeks, changes that you want to make to the offense, things that you want to do more of, and things that you have to get going. But if there isn't any evidence that they're working prior to now, what and first of all, that was under the best of circumstances. That was under the best of circumstances that Penn State couldn't throw the ball, right?
Yeah.
Well, how? And that was against the worst competition that Penn State faced. So if the thing that you're arguing for now didn't work under those circumstances with your best players on the field, how are you reasonably feeling confident? Because I do think that's a big part of this is because of the way the game was playing out, they were emboldened to do the things that they felt gave them the best chance to win, right? And so, yeah, you might, it is easy to say what you're going to do on Monday and Wednesday. But when you're in a 3-point ball game at halftime and you think to yourself, well, maybe if Ohio State messes up again and fumbles deep in their own territory or coughs up a kickoff return.
But let's start with where we were in the 3rd quarter, which is Ohio State comes out and scores, and they score very easily. Penn State then, for the rest of the quarter, has 18 total yards, -6, -13 rushing yards. They didn't go back to what was working in the first half of their toss plays. They tried to run between the tackles against odd. What happened was, from what I can see just now, and I haven't really, the trenches is where you got to kind of go back and watch the game film to understand these things. But from what I saw, Ohio State pivoted to more of their odd fronts, and Penn State just ran into their odd fronts with their standard run game, which again doesn't make a lot of sense because that was something that hasn't worked all year long. Their zone plays have not worked against odd fronts. And so they make those decisions to, as you just said, do what was working, except they didn't. And Ohio State is pushing far ahead in the point total, so you do have to adjust your game plan as that's happening because they've adjusted at halftime and decided what they're going to attack with. So that's, I guess, the thing here is like Penn State tried to play the same game in the third quarter, and Ohio State put up 144 yards in a blink of an eye. And again, that part I'm saying that's locked in.
Yep.
What you do in response was to screen, option play, screen, run between the tackles instead of try to win the game. Like try to win the game. Not bite at the margins. I don't know. I don't know. Like there is this, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I am like, I'm sympathetic to the point of there's not really anything they were going to do, but what they decided to do, and I know that I'm ranting longer here and kind of meandering, but it is fair to say there weren't a lot of things that were going to work. And I'm sitting here after watching the things that didn't work and go, why didn't you do the things that did work? But they did have success in the first half. They did find success. And then, in the third quarter, Ohio State made adjustments and clamped down, and it was over. And it just felt like you could have tried some of those things you said you were going to do during the week, but instead we go with, you know what? I've talked too long now.
Well, no,
I'm feeling subconscious.
I think that when, and this is in some ways emblematic of the season that they've had, there is a urge, an instinct to say, well, why didn't you try something else? I get that 100%. They had 60 plays in this game. They didn't have the football in the third quarter. Why? Because they got stopped. Like there was no. Yeah. So I guess I get the pivot that you're requesting, but it's easier to do that now. I think, like down 10, right? Like when you're down 10, are you expecting that? Like, okay, Ohio State scores right off the bat to start the second half. You want them to abandon what they had been doing under those circumstances?
No, and here's the thing. This is why, like, you need the short-term memory of what happened in well, my real problem is what happened in the fourth quarter, which at that point the game, like the writing's on the wall.
Because second touchdown ended the game. Right in the third quarter, the second touchdown, like the first one, okay, 10 points. But once Penn State went down 17, like that was, and that I think in a lot of ways was what everybody was waiting for in the first half, was that they were on the precipice of finding that 17-point deficit. It just didn't come because Ohio State had a weird turnover.
Yeah. So and yes, that was something that I think is very clear about how that first half was going because they were going to score every possession in the first half. What happened on that second drive? They almost did. They almost did. That second drive of the third quarter, first off, the TV did not get us back in time to see anything but the third down play. Then to go back to what they did, they got an incredible play from Devontae Ross on third down where he catches the ball falling over and gets a first down. Then they run outside zone for 0 yards. They get an RPO pass that was open to Andrew Rappelier, and it's batted down. There's some bad luck involved there, and then they have to throw on third and long, and there's a sack because Drew Shelton's just overwhelmed by the Ohio State defender, and it's a punt. So even after that rant, like your point is right. They were more aggressive on those two plays. I guess Now I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to massage the point to say I wanted them to keep swinging. Because the point of the pressure came on third down. This is what I'm trying to say. The pressure was not coming on first down. The pressure they were feeling was on third and long. So give your offense the opportunity to throw on first down, because that was working. And then in the fourth quarter, again, the game's over. But then you come out and you throw 3 straight screens because you got pressure on third down. This is the frustrating thing. It's the wrong lesson learned from that moment, in my perspective. And that has been a consistent theme. That and not getting Devontae Ross the ball 10 times every game.
Okay. I can live with that. I mean, I'm looking at the play sheet. They did throw the ball on first down. Penn State's first drive in the second half.
Play action.
Set up 2nd and 1.
Yep.
Completion to Pena, set up 2nd and 4. Then they ran Nick, and then there was a short catch to Clifford, right? Things got weird. You throw that short pass to Clifford. And then again, like 3rd and 6, Bronkmeyer got sacked. Okay. Ohio State scores the next possession. Penn State gets the ball back, has it for a couple of plays. 3rd and 10, right? Devontae Ross converted on 3rd and 5. 3rd and 10, sack, 11-yard loss.
You know what we've learned? Human memory is faulty. I write down every single play, concept, and everything on a thing, so I don't do exactly what I did on this show. And I just went back to, why didn't they run the touchdown play?
Well, that was most of the conversation in the first half was why how come they're not winning? Why don't they just win this game? You can and the first quarter was the NIL money again, and everybody's stealing their paychecks, and then it turned into, man, this team has fight. Right. And then it went back to, man, they're mailing it in. I look, like it is a roller coaster in the game during the moment. I just think that if big picture, for what it's worth, this is a badly wounded Penn State football program. Point blank, period. They are badly in a bad way. And Ohio State isn't. They're in a great place. They're in a really good place at home. Like we can dissect the X's and O's. We can dissect the soft sciences of how everyone's feeling. But at the end of the day, Ohio State's just better than Penn State, and by a significant margin when you consider all of those external factors.
Greg's here to agree with you. He says, saw the effort, but just don't have the horses. That's exactly right. So I will always be mired in the details. I will be deep in the weeds, and Nate's standing over on the green, just hanging out, being like, I'll see you when you get back. And that's fair. Just like I just make sure you have one of those tick removers for me, because I'm going to have them all over.
Does Drew Aller healthy? Let's hypothetical this out. Does Drew Aller healthy change and James Franklin not fired, right? All of the perfect conditions. Does that make a difference in this game when your defense, which the back end is perfectly healthy and perfectly described as being really, really good, right? Jim Knowles said before this season started that he felt the cornerbacks were national championship caliber. When they're getting toasted, roasted, burnt to a crisp, the way that they were in both in the dink and dunk in the first half, and then with the explosives in the second half, I'm just not sure how it changes the equation.
Because at no point did they have a pass rush to marry with that. There was multiple plays where Julian Sayin was back there clean for the entire game. They actually got more pressure in this game than I thought they were going to, and there were a couple of plays they did force a field goal or things like that. Both are true. This game, Penn State's cornerback 2 position, they may play in the NFL. Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are going to star in the NFL. They will be drafted in the first round. Those other players, I think Davian Collins can be drafted. I don't know when. And that is the obvious difference there. I do want to talk quickly, Nate, about some of the changes that did happen, because I don't want these to go unnoticed, because there are things from a personnel standpoint that Penn State had decided to do over the bye week that I think was smart. These were some needed changes. On the offensive side of the ball, Anthony Donko at right tackle. I think they had better pass protection. The right side, I think he may have given up a sack in this game, but generally I thought that was a better opportunity for Penn State than what would have been happening, than what was happening over there. And then Luke Reynolds has kind of been phased out of the offense since the Iowa game. He did not see the field nearly as much. Andrew Rappelier was out there. And then they played some of those young linebackers. Alex Tash was on the field in this game. I don't know if he did anything, but I saw him out there a couple of times. Were there things that you saw that were changes that were made? Because the process, I think, is important, because people are going to see the result, as we just pointed out, as I just am an example of, like, I just went with the result instead of the process on some of these rants. And we're not going to know, like, we're not going to pay attention to the details of what changed. Did you see anything that was positive in terms of change?
I thought that Singleton was kind of going. I kind of thought he had it going a little bit. His yards per touch when you added the receptions in was pretty good. I thought they backed away from him in ways in this, like, after he scored a touchdown, that didn't entirely add up. So there was a duality to that, because Terry said that, I mean, he said repeatedly this week that they have to get Singleton going, and they did, and he was, and then there just weren't those opportunities for him again, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of good, and then kind of not good for Penn State. The receiver conversation remains interesting. Kobe Howard, I get it. There's some smoke, right? That he's a playmaker.
Every time he's on the field, he makes a play.
Yeah. And, but it isn't on the field. It was not on the field to my eye.
Yeah.
And maybe you paid closer attention than I did, but I did not see him. Did he get a rep in the first half?
He did. It was on, I think, a third down, and I think he might have been blocking.
Like,
he was not involved in the play. Yeah, he got
right,
a
like
rep.
A rep.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So by the time he makes his 26-yard reception in the second half, the game is
game's over.
24 points. Right. It's just not part of the equation. So
yeah,
whatever the hangups are there, I do think that there's, like, and maybe I'm just completely blinded to this, right? Maybe there are politics involved and, like, some deep-seated conspiracy, but, like, knowing what I think I know of Terry Smith, knowing what I think I know of this team, and, right, to me that suggests there is a perception about his readiness to be on the field and produce that carries over between staffs, right? Because now you've got a different guy. Now you got a different guy in the chair, and he's making the same decision, right? Or Andy Kotelnicki making the same decision. However that's working out, it's just one where they still feel that the reps to the receivers that they brought in through the transfer portal are of better value going to them and the potential that Kobe represents in the passing game. Did Denmark play today?
I don't believe Denmark played. I didn't see him on the field.
Part
of the problem is, like, somebody says in the chat, let me find it here quickly. Why does Hudson play? Leonard Brady wants to know why Hudson plays. Because he's a good blocker, I guess. Like, his primary job out there in this offense is to block on screen plays. I actually confused him with the tight end at one point when I was looking at the field and trying to determine the personnel to start the game. That's why. And if Kobe Howard is not as willing or as adept of a blocker, and that's the position he's going to play, and you're going to throw 10 screens in a game of 28 passes, then you want to have your blocking receiver out there instead of your receiving receiver out there, which leads me back to the point of maybe the receiving plays are something they should be trying with the receiving receivers.
Yeah.
Because again, if you create more threats out there where you got Ross, Howard, And I understand. I'm with you.
Totally.
I don't think they're not playing him because there's some conspiracy. I think there's a lot of stuff that we don't know sitting over here that they do know. And we just went through all the guys that have been benched, and Kobe Howard is not one of the guys that has gotten a start. And they've made changes on the offense and on the defense.
Maybe and this is like, this might be the actual point of all of this, is that Terry's push publicly about changes and things that they're going to tweak and all of that is fine in concept, but may have been a little mistimed, right? Like maybe Ohio State against the number one team in the country, against the defense that has allowed whatever it is, 50 points total this season. Maybe that's not the time for you to get, and maybe like I'm playing both sides purposefully here. Maybe that is the time to abandon everything that you think you're good at.
This is the emotional frustration I have here, Nate, is having watched the film.
Yeah.
I don't think Ohio State's pass rush is necessarily one that should threaten your quarterback. If I agree with Terry, you don't want to be throwing 40 times a game, but make your passing plays count. Yes, the screen has to be a part of the game, but make your passing plays absolutely count. I thought that's what he was saying, which is this game we're going to throw the ball vertically down the field, so when we establish the run, we're creating a multi-level threat and an offense that threatens every part of the field. But once you start throwing short, again, we're in the same situation. If you just clamp down on guys and you don't have as many threats, it doesn't need to be down the field like a deep shot. They didn't take any deep shots in this game. I don't mind that. I'm talking about the 10 to 17 yards down the field. They've abandoned those areas of the field in favor of protecting the quarterback, and they still put the quarterback in that situation multiple times a game because of that thing. And so if you're going to throw 28 times a game and 10 are screens, I don't think that's a game plan that has any winning formula to it. I've seen these guys try to break tackles. They are not breaking tackles in a way that's going to generate yards after the catch. That is a fundamental misconception by the people in charge of these players. Unless there's somebody else out there, it's on the roster, that they're not playing because of politics. I don't know. I don't know who that'd be. Good talk.
I hear you. I'm not sure what it, I mean, sure.
It doesn't change the outcome of the game. Does not change the outcome of the game. But it might change. It might make it worse. Like it might be 45-14 in this game instead of 38-14.
What was the second half is getting a little jumbled for me, but the out pattern to Hudson, was it Rapp? I can't remember. That was just,
it was Hudson, 15 yards in the fourth quarter on that final drive. Yeah.
No, but there was an incompletion. There were like Grunkmeyer had a couple of incompletions. Maybe it was in the first half.
That was in the first half. It was a seam pass. He got a little happy feet. He was a little excited to see the ball down the seam. Yeah.
The end of the first half, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Where they had the ball and it was the clock mismanagement and they had to punt the ball back to Ohio State. Like I think that's what you're talking about. Were those pass plays?
Yeah.
And they didn't go well.
They didn't go well, but I'm saying keep chopping. Keep chopping. There's only one way out, and it's through.
Yeah.
You're not going to get where you want to go with screenplays.
Yeah.
Like you're not making it in Hollywood with this screenplay. I'm sorry.
How about the two third down completions that they did have on the touchdown drive, the first touchdown drive?
Yeah.
Were both, to my recollection, really late in the internal clock for Grunk. Like he moved through 4 reads before he got to Liam Clifford. I can't remember who had the other one. Was it Ross? Maybe. On
the touchdown drive, he had one third down conversion. Yeah.
It was the one to Ross that he got stood up like right at the first down line, but they gave him the first down. And then the second one was to Clifford. But I guess my point is those.
So that one was a first read. The first one was a first read. The second one was a full field read. Yeah.
But they weren't like that was the sample size of success doing that.
Yeah.
And it may have made them feel a little queasy about the potential to do that moving forward, that was going to be a pathway that was going to have success for them.
Yeah. By the way, my point is still run the ball, do all the things that you were doing, but instead of throwing screens, do more of that. And maybe it fails. Like obviously it's going to fail.
It failed either way. Yep.
Yeah, it failed either way. We are talking about, as somebody said earlier this week, rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. But if you're looking, that's where the hope comes in, I think, for Penn State fans. That's where the pride of you fought for it. It feels like in the second half, they didn't fight for it, even though what really happened was they got their ass kicked in the second half. Ultimately, Ohio State focused, clamped down, and they played their best football in the second half, and they got a shutout, 24-0 in the second half. And that's the difference in the game.
It gets tougher to live in that world of wild swings where everything has gone wrong for this team, right? I mean, Terry's talked about having to find ways to make the ball bounce their way. It has not happened. And then at the end of the first half, the ball bounces their way. And in a half that otherwise is Ohio State pretty much doing what they want offensively.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of success for Penn State. But that concept of the ball bouncing their way, it actually happens. And they go into the locker room down 3 points instead of down 17 points, right? That's a huge swing. But then they come back out, right? They come back out to the field, and it takes Ohio State 3 plays? 3 plays to score a touchdown? How many plays? 1, 2, 3,
5.
4. 5 plays. Okay.
But it was 2 plays before they get, it was on the second play, they get a 57-yard bomb.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the one. And so I'm not saying that play in particular like broke their backs, but I think I've said this for a couple of weeks now, but I just think it is a real battle of human nature to stay in it, to keep getting yourself up off the mat when these are the circumstances. Especially
when the worst case scenario happens and you gave up a deep pass. Like, as you said, the psychological reinforcement of don't get beat deep, and now it happened again. And here we are at the goal line, and here we go again. Yeah, I get that. How's everybody feel? Do we work it out? Are people feeling? I feel better. Like, here's the thing: is football, like, as not a fan, trying to bring you a perspective of what happened in the game, and to also validate some of your feelings of like, these are the things that don't make sense to me. Like, football is still an emotional game. If you love football and you're watching, and like you have been watching this team, you can't help but feel emotions. And I do feel better here after an hour. Nate, do you feel better after an hour? Chat, do you feel better after an hour of talk?
I didn't feel bad in the first place. I feel bad. I feel bad for the players and the coaches that have to get through this, because that was the sentiment that I expressed really after the Northwestern game, right? Immediately after the Northwestern game. Like the last thing I said in that post-game video, which seems like a lifetime ago today, even before James Franklin had been fired, what did I say? I said, they still have to play the rest of the season. They have to play more games when all of this stuff that they had been working for was lost. Look, there's some elements of people among the fan base, certainly the team, wanting to wish and will themselves to a Disney moment of yeah, a win against, or like just something to hang your hat on. And maybe that's what the first half represents, is they got a little bit of that feeling, but they're just so mortally wounded. And like, people can say whatever they want about that they have no backbone, right? You can make your judgments on their character for that, and that's fine. Like, I really don't have an issue with people saying, "Oh man, like you couldn't fight through it. You gave up. That's what this team is." That's like, if that's the judgment that people have, okay, that's fine. I just think that human nature is human nature for a reason, and we like, cliches have truth to them. And in this case, in this situation, that they have tried to combine something that already wasn't working. Best conditions was not working. They've tried to combine that with also firing the head coach and also playing the toughest portion of the schedule. These are the hardest games.
Yeah.
Right. At Iowa, I don't care what Iowa is, what version of 1844 football they play. Winning at Kinnick on the road with anybody is hard at night. That's hard to do for anybody. Then you get a bye week, and then you got to go play number 1 Ohio State, and who has freaks. Like, maybe if Jeremiah Smith doesn't exist, we're not having this conversation. Carnell Tate don't exist, then maybe we're not having this conversation. But they do. And Penn State is not equipped as a football team to withstand all of that at the same time. So here they are. This is it.
Here they are.
Four more games. They'll keep doing whatever it is that they're doing, and maybe Terry Smith will get the top 5 win that James Franklin couldn't get against Indiana.
I'm just throwing this up here, Nate, after they are as terrible as you thought they were. And this isn't over. It reminds me of the sequel to 300, when I think it was at the end of 300, when she said, when the Queen says, this will not be painless, and you will not enjoy this. That's what the rest of the season is. That's the rest of the season. This will not be short. You will not enjoy this.
It's a little like when your favorite pet dies, right? When not like getting hit by a car.
What stage of grief are we in at this point then?
The pet hasn't died yet, but is mortally, like, it's heading that way, and you are starting the process of grappling with that, but also scanning your local puppy mills for something new and fresh and like ready to jump up and lick you on the face, because you know what's coming. It's already happened to a certain extent. And your dog was a great dog. What a great loyal dog you had, but the time ran its course, and now get it over with.
Please adopt is the only thing I'm taking from that. Please adopt. Go to your local animal shelter. Find a dog that needs a home. Pause. Okay, Nate, this has been good. I enjoyed this. Thank you for your time. I know that there's a lot of things for us to do here post game, and it's been nice having you as a sounding board here to reel me back in when I'm a little too far out there, and we can have a great conversation with everybody here in the chat about Penn State football. It's new. It's 2:40. It's 4:25. So you've got plenty of time to go outside, and by plenty of time I mean like an hour and a half left of daylight. If you want to go outside and do something, you want to maybe go to an early dinner, enjoy the rest of your Saturday, unplug from football, touch grass, whatever you want to do. Meditate. Enjoy your weekend. We will be back on Monday with more from Penn State football. Terry Smith, Indiana week starts on Monday. We'll have the things we've learned. And, of course, tomorrow we'll have our post-game coverage. I'll have my film analysis. Nate will have his post-game recaps. And Terry Smith, already up right now over on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, so you can go watch what he had to say about the Nittany Lions after their 38-14 loss to Ohio State. I'm Thomas Frankar for Nate Bauer. We'll talk to you then.